Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning, or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
All hands on deck, Ben. I said deck.
I actually woke up with both hands on the mast and semen everywhere.
Why don't you go and wash your hands while I introduce the show?
No, mate, just do it the old...
Ugh. A yucky welcome to everybody. This is our Good Movie Monday, the weekly podcast dedicated to nerdy cinematic ramblings. Thanks for joining us. My name is Glenn Cochran, and over there, I guess, the original seaman himself, Mr. Trigger Happy, Ben Helwig. How are you?
I've sent more men to their death on my chest than the entire... What's that joke? It's so ridiculously offensive.
Oh, whatever
I
podcast
I'm so
platform
sorry.
you're listening to us on today, we'd love you to
So sorry.
consider the Newsly app. I just hope Newsly's not listening because this is not the best endorsement. But they are a fantastic platform who support what we do, and we appreciate them. So keep listening and you'll find out how you can score an entire month of free premium service. Of course, you can also follow us on all of the other social media too, and you can find links to all of those directly from our website, which is goodmoviemonday.com. What's news with you this week, mate?
Oh, like we went to see John Wick.
We did go to see John Wick. Are we at the point in time that we're allowed to talk about it? I don't know if the embargo's lifted.
Oh, well, let's not talk about the film. Let's just talk about the experience.
Okay, lots of pizza.
There was a lot of pizza. We got a coin, so now we can stop in at the Continental and get a room for the night.
I was about to hold up my coin. It's right here, but I realized this is a podcast and not a vodcast. So,
yeah, save that shit for up late with Chloe.
yeah. You think I'd learn by now, but no, it was a great little screening too. Because for people that aren't aware, some of these media screenings take place at big event, like Crown. Some of them take place at Jam Factory. This one was at a little sort of private cinema called Backlot, which is a fantastic little venue. And
It was actually, I found it very odd. Usually they let us, the critics, in with the great unwashed / influencers. But this time for John Wick, we got the little private screening at Backlot, and I keep seeing on the internet that other people, they got the Jam Factory experience. Or
yeah, 2 in a row for me. I also got the same experience at the Super Mario Brothers screening.
Oh,
And that was very nice indeed. Gold class. Anybody?
I didn't even know that was on. I did not get an invite.
No, I would have taken you along with me, but it was one of those really strictly, one only and don't tell anyone. Whoops. Anyway, we've got a fun show coming up for you today. At least I hope we do. That depends.
So you haven't mentioned what you've been up to. I mean, I know we went to John Wick together.
Yeah, and Super Mario for me. That's about it. I've had a very intensive, busy week, and I'm still in the.
Have you set up your the other discs in the shelves in your new house?
They certainly are, my friend. That's what I've been doing this week, and all I've got left to do is the kids section. So, and yes, people, I have sections. The kids section is yet to be done, but by the time you're back in the studio with me, they'll be in place, mate.
Do you have, like, when at the video store, we always had the cult / art house section, and that was really just code for stuff that we couldn't decide what other section it should go.
Oh
in.
yeah, miscellaneous.
Yeah,
Totally.
But it just looked better than miscellaneous.
We did have a section in the particular stores I worked in that changed every month. So we had a Christopher Lambert section, a Steven Seagal section, always the same section, but we just we rotated.
Yeah. Oh, we always had in the cult section, we got to choose, and you just randomly go, you know what? I think I'm going to have a movies directed by Jonathan Frakes section.
Clock stoppers for the win, my friend.
Yeah, and you'd wait and see if any customers picked it up. They never did. Like, how obscure could you get?
Well, we call it curated, don't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Some people have staff picks. We didn't announce it as staff picks. We just and then it was always fun because we would, like me or this other guy Anthony, we would do those sections, and then Helen, the owner, on her day, she would just come and go no, and just take it all down and put up more popular titles. And then when we came in, we were like, "Well, I've got some work to do today."
Well, you know what? Speaking of video stores, our special guest on this episode is Sarah Spillane, whose new movie will never make it to video stores and is in fact on the platform that killed video stores. Her movie is True Spirit. It is currently on Netflix, and yeah, we're going to have a chat with her in a little bit. I saw you react to that.
Yeah. I was in my head. I was the Buggles video killed the radio star was playing, but I couldn't. I
should have started with that opening song.
I wasn't quick enough to turn it into Netflix killed the video star to actually say it.
Well, we can re-record it if you want.
That's fine.
We also have the weekly segments from Bonehead Weekly coming up, the podcast from America, Kentucky to be exact, with their Bonehead Weekly fun size.
It was actually Joe's birthday this week.
It was. Well, we can wish him a happy birthday when it comes to the Bonehead segment. Or we can do it now. Sure. We've already done it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just leave it. And in a moment, we will be dragging in Jarrett Garn from Monster Pictures to discuss what's coming out on physical media this week. Before we push on though, Ben, 2 trailers dropped this week, and I'm wondering if you watched them. Actually, last week on Friday, 2 shark movies. So we've got Big Shark, which is the the follow-up movie to The Room by Tommy Wiseau.
It's a direct sequel, I believe.
And The Black Demon, which is
Shark, you're driving me crazy.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Shark. I can't take credit for that. Black Demon's the other one, which looks like a cross between Meg and what's the
Dagon.
Deep Blue Sea? Yeah, that too.
I was gonna say Meg and Dagon. Well, like at the start when they get to the town.
Yeah, totally. Totally. What do you reckon? Are we back into shark mode?
Yeah, look, I couldn't help but when watching these 2 trailers, I was like, aren't we over this already? Like, isn't there something more than just size? Like, can't we remake Tintoria or something? Just,
other creatures. Other creatures. Yeah. Although Brian Usner did try that with Amphibious, and that was a hot mess, a sloppy mess.
But look, I admittedly, Black Demon does look a lot better than Big Shark.
Oh, absolutely! It's directed by the guy that did Rambo: Last Blood and Get the Gringo.
Big Shark is wow.
Black Demon.
I find it curious. Like the trailer is so odd because it starts with all that boxing stuff, and then for no reason, like it doesn't seem to be an important part of the plot at all. And then there's the quick snaps of the shark attacking things, but the longer ones are the shark chasing someone through through a backyard fence and stuff like that.
Just flopping his way along the footpath.
But then I had to freeze the trailer, pause it. There is the shark does somehow manage to crash through the roof of the boxing gym and attack at least one of the boxers. So it does have that going for it.
The most curious thing I found about the trailer is the very end title on the screen. If you go down to the bottom, it says "All rights reserved, 2019 to 2022."
Yeah, right. So now it's
free for all.
Free for all, yeah.
Anyway, so in other words, yes, you have seen those trailers.
Yes.
Every single week you hear me talk about Newsly, and I mean it sincerely. It's the place that we would prefer you to listen to Good Movie Monday and Wednesday Up Late. Go to newsly.me, download it onto your phone. It's a super app, and it's amazing. It has all of the podcasts you could possibly want, including ours, and it takes all of the news from around the world and it curates it to your liking as well. So whether you're into sports, you're into film, you might be into literature, you might be into politics, religion, whatever it is, Newsly takes articles from around the world, over 80 different countries, whatever is trending at any given time, puts it all into your app. And the best part about that is, if you haven't got time to read, you might be driving, you might be concentrating on other things, Newsly can read it all back to you in a natural human voice. It's fantastic. It's a free app, but they do have a premium service, and we can get you a free month of that. So all you got to do is use our code Monday without the O. So MNDAY. Put that code in, get a free month premium subscription. You don't even need to tell them we sent you. They'll know. So if you support what we do, then give us a hand by getting the Newsly app onto your phone now. Hey Ben, the PE in PE class means physical entertainment. I just thought I'd put that out there because there's probably so many people wondering what the fuck's PE class even all about. But here to tell us all about it is Jarrett.
I thought it was physical education, like an education about the physical.
It's true, and I am here to rehash some traumatic memories you might have had from high school, all those sick notes you wrote, or all that time you took in, I don't know, your WAG school because you didn't want to be in the locker room with the other lads. Well, welcome back to PE class, gents.
None of that makes any sense.
No, I was just throwing you off. No, physical media, not necessarily dying, just, just not as much out there as there used to be once upon a time.
Such a somber note for this is the segment that we're championing.
Well, actually, look, it's been a quiet couple of weeks on home entertainment, if you've listened to the last few weeks. But this week is a bit of a banger because we've not only got some tentpole releases from a major studio, but we've actually got some premium releases coming from, the boutique labels as well. Mm-hmm. So I might as well kick off with the boutique labels because that's really the most exciting aspect of this week's releases, and the one I'm really excited about is Adrian Lynn's Jacob's Ladder that's coming out via imprint. It is a remarkable edition. Not only does it port all of the archival special features from the previous Lionsgate release in the United States, but it's got a ton of new content as well. We've got audio commentaries with a film historian, we've got visual essays, we've even got a locations featurette that goes back and checks out the locations now, along with how they looked in the film. I can't even recall how much stuff, but here it is.
Yeah.
But do you remember, Jarrett, briefly? Do you remember briefly, Jarrett, when I was working on that title for Umbrella before imprint?
Before it was snatched up by imprint. I know, and I was going to do an audio commentary for it, but however,
we were going to do a commentary, and I had lined up the writer of the film. An interview with the writer.
Yes. Well, funnily enough, I think the screenwriter is actually featured in the new special features on this. So you probably did the legwork for them, which is great. But yeah, unfortunately, Mike White of the Projection Booth podcast ended up getting the audio commentary for this bad boy. But
of all commentaries you want to do, that's a good one.
Oh, it'd be so good. I mean, admittedly, this film is remarkable, irrespective of who directed it. It's fantastic. But the fact that it was directed by Adrian Lynn too is terrific because it's a bit against type for Adrian Lynn, known mostly for the, softcore erotic thrillers. Yeah, like Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal, great movies.
He's the drama version of Paul Verhoeven.
There is some sexy stuff in it. Who's the
definitely.
In it?
No, well, you put me on the spot there. Elizabeth Pena? Is it Elizabeth Pena?
It is Elizabeth Pena. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it is.
There's some sexy stuff with her, but it's not the kind of sexy stuff you want to see. I think it's a bit awkward.
The whole movie's about nightmares. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's awkward sexy stuff.
I feel like it's a pretty good companion piece to Hellbound Hellraiser 2 for some reason. I'm not sure if it's just association because when I saw that movie, it was around the same period, the late 80s, early 90s. But anyway, it's a fantastic release, and since we've got video, I can actually physically show you if you're watching the video at a later point. But it's a nice release, as always, from imprint, but loaded with special features. The archival stuff alone is terrific. You've got an audio commentary with Adrian Lynn, deleted scenes, trailers, teasers. It's all there. But there's some other good stuff coming from them this week. They've got House of the Spirits, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, Return to Paradise, Little Buddha, and Georgia with Jennifer Jason Leigh all coming out on Blu-ray.
Little Buddha, it's Keanu month. Everything's Keanu right now.
Yeah, true.
And this guy's like a relic in Hollywood. You think about he's on top of his game right now doing John Wick, and yet Little Buddha, I remember when it was a big deal that he was in that. And that's 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Keanu Reeves is kind of like a strange cat because he's kind of the, bad films can't sort of touch him or ruin his career at this point in time. Because Matrix, what was it? Matrix Resurrections? I don't think I heard a kind word about that. Didn't do well at the box office. Yeah, and then we had, what was another one? Oh, the Bill and Ted, third Bill and Ted film, very average.
I must be the only person that loved that.
Was a bit of a flop.
What was the last one there, Ben?
13 Ronin.
37.
Oh, yeah.
37.
Yeah,
they're doing 37. You sucked 37 roses.
In a row? They're doing another one of those, I read, though. Legendary Pictures are doing another one. So I don't know, maybe it was popular in some territory.
Yeah.
And I believe it's theatrical. It's not even direct-to-home entertainment. So go figure. I don't know if Keanu Reeves will return for it. He may be too busy rehashing another franchise film that possibly won't do so well at the box office, but won't touch the fact he'll come back for John Wick 5. Haven't seen John Wick 4, lad, so I don't know. But I assume he's going to make it in the end of that one because, you know, why would you end it now?
Aren't they doing My Own Private Idaho 2 Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah. Who are they going to get in place of River Phoenix? I guess you could have, like, Alex Winter could return back to acting and
Just
do
throw
another
Joaquin in
spot
there.
it.
Yeah, get
Oh,
one.
that makes a lot of sense too. He could grow the beard out and wear the sunglasses again. Just as long as Casey Affleck's not involved, I think we're good. But moving on to the majors, there's some big stuff coming out from the majors this week. The highlight for me is the Whitney Houston biopic, I Want to Dance with Somebody. I actually saw this theatrically and I really enjoyed it. It's a bit soft around the edges, but it's got great production
I couldn't
value.
stand it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I just enjoyed it. I went and saw it with my father-in-law and my wife on Boxing Day, and I turned to my wife and I said, "Oh, you know, I'm surprised there's as many men here as there are women." And she goes, "Yes, but I think you're the only man here that has a full head of hair." And I looked around and I went, "Oh, that's something."
I felt like the writers were given 48 hours to write the movie, so they went straight to Wikipedia and boom.
And did it. It had a certain lifetime quality about it with production value, might I say. But the thing I did really like about it, unlike, say, Bohemian Rhapsody and the Elton John one, Rocket Man, is they actually did the full songs as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they maybe did that in the Elton John one, but it was just such a blur of fantasy and reality.
Might I add, and Ben's going to agree with me, I'm sure, you haven't seen a biopic until you've seen the Celine Dion one that's called Eileen.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Wow, I haven't
That is a
even
must
heard of
see.
that.
It is outrageous, and it's compelling like all fuck. The director played the main lead actor. It's supposed to be Celine Dion, but her name's Eileen. And but when they go to her teenage self, they've like deep faked her. And so, like, it's an adult head on a child's body.
That gives me memories of like Junior when they took Arnold Schwarzenegger's head and put it on a baby's body.
Totally.
Oh,
And
wow.
The thing that's so weird about it too is because it's all about her having this, like, she was underage when she started having this relationship with her much, much older manager. But the impact is totally blunted by the fact that she looks older than him, even though she's in a little girl's body.
Whoa, okay, that's strange. I've got to see that.
It's so good.
How old is this movie? This is the first I've heard of it.
Like 2 years, 3 years?
It was, last year or the year before.
Wow, okay, yeah, right. And it was a direct to streaming sort of thing, or
Theatrical in Europe and Canada, because I think it's a Canadian film. Here, who set it up for us? I can't remember, but yeah.
It was a net, but I don't think it was a Studio Canal film.
Or a Rialto. It was one of those other.
Yes, one of those.
Anyway, sorry, just to hijack.
Interesting. Well, there you go. But anyway, I Want to Dance with Somebody, Blu-ray and DVD, which is good news. Another one that's hitting home entertainment this week that got a theatrical. I think it actually came out on the 1st of Jan, on New Year's Day, is A Man Called Otto, the Tom Hanks version of the best-selling novel, I think it was called A Man Called Ove or something like that.
Which was the like German film.
Swedish one? Or
Swedish,
German,
whatever.
Swedish
One or the
novel,
other.
and then
Eastern Bloc.
There you go, yeah. Now they've done another adaptation. Haven't seen it, and I mean, I know they're trying to get Tom Hanks to play against type with it, but I saw the trailer and it just looked like, it looked lame to me because you just
More
had
Tom
him
Hanks.
play Mr. Rogers, and now you've got him playing this surly neighbour, but not quite a Clint Eastwood, and I don't know, I just was like, this actually looks like it might be a pretty good plane movie if you want to get some sleep.
The only thing I want to see Tom Hanks in these days is another comedy like he did in the 80s.
Oh my god, yeah, bring him back for like Splash 3. Like let's acknowledge that Splash 2 happened.
No,
and let's just bring a third installment.
They need to remake Buford's Beach House Bunnies, but he plays his brother's part. That was a Jim Hanks.
Oh yeah,
that was
yeah,
a Jim Hanks
totally.
classic. And
And maybe they could do a version of Big, but instead he wishes like he was an elderly gent, and so then they can just age him up.
He's not Ray Liotta.
Well, God, I hope not.
He's the guy who plays the boss. Why is his name?
Oh, I know who you mean. From Innocent Prey, or Innocent Blood. Sorry,
Innocent Blood, yeah, and Lost Highway, and
yeah, Robert
Loggia.
Loggia.
Loggia. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
but I think what they should do though is a biopic or a behind-the-scenes movie of the Buzz Lightyear cartoon, and Tom Hanks can play Jim Hanks.
Oh, see, there you go. That would be terrific.
Actually, I just hope.
Why haven't they got us in the
Tom
studio?
Parker spin-off movie,
No,
like the early years of Tom Parker.
What about a feature version of Bosom Buddies, but now?
That would be
I don't
great.
know.
I'm actually. I mean, look, I haven't seen A Man Called Otto. I'm looking forward to it, although it does look like for the entire.
You're looking forward to it so much that it came out in cinemas 3 months ago. You didn't see it. It's probably been on premium VOD 45 days after that, and you're so excited. You're just like, I'll be rushing down to the nearest physical media retailer to snap up a copy of that.
Yeah,
you're waiting for it to end up on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I was going to say, by excited, I mean, yeah.
And then you're going to watch it maybe. God knows how many years.
He's going to wait for the next Melbourne Film Fair.
I feel I don't know if I'm comfortable with you knowing that much about my viewing habits.
Give me your password. I want to add things to your queue.
It'll show up at Savers eventually.
What excites me about it is that I think he's doing a Walter Matthau impression. Whole film.
Yeah.
And that to me is fascinating. But I really got all I needed from watching the trailer. I probably don't need to watch the rest of the film.
Well, you've just named Tom Hanks' career trajectory from here. He is going to start doing the Walter Matthau roles. We could see him playing the next door neighbor in the next adaptation of Dennis the Menace and so forth. Maybe they could get Chet Hanks to play Dennis the Menace. Then it would be really meta and funny.
I mean, Bosom Buddies isn't that far removed from The Odd Couple.
The Odd Couple, yeah. You're right.
We're out to sea.
Was that? Oh no, Gone Fishing was Joe Pesci and Danny Glover.
Oh mate, let's talk about that sometime. Whole episode.
What a cracker! Well, I'm waiting. It's trapped in the Disney catalog, so I'm waiting for a 4K announcement for that one. Now
it was a recommendation on the show last year, I think.
Oh, excellent! Classic,
Go down
classic. Now another 2 releases are coming out from a major this week, both animated affairs. Neither of which actually interest me, but I'll share with the listeners out there because there might be some people that are looking to entertain their kids and haven't seen these already. Lyle Crocodile, and then Puss in Boots, whatever that one's called. I don't know.
Well, Lyle Crocodile, I think you might get a kick out of this one. It doesn't look that great, but it's based on a really popular series of books from the 70s.
Right.
Apparently this is like an American take on Americans trying to do a Paddington type of thing, and I've heard it's got a lot of charm to it, so I'm actually
It doesn't have James Corden doing any voices, does it?
Oh God, I hope not.
Yeah, because he's pretty much the kiss of death on most things these days, I find. If you ever stumble onto YouTube and go down the rabbit hole of hate for James Corden, it's an interesting thing. But yeah, he's got such a punchable face. And then the last release I want to mention this week is an Australian film that's coming out through Roadshow, Blueback.
Yes.
And that's coming, and they've given it a Blu-ray and DVD release, which is terrific because obviously they did the Blu-ray release for Seriously Red not all that long ago, so it's good to see them actually doing releases like Blu-ray releases of local films because God knows no one overseas is probably going to do it unless it's a cultish genre title and gets picked up by a boutique label and released down the track. But I haven't seen this one, and I actually really do want to see it. It's a bit of an all-star cast in it, and Did either of you guys catch this one during its theatrical run?
No.
To be honest, I thought it was a movie about a gay guy who'd been edging all day, and then finally gets his boyfriend comes home and he finally gets to blueback him.
Right. Well,
Far out.
The Whale Rider.
Yeah.
Whale Rider of Australian cinema.
Sperm whale.
Yes, Sperm Whale Rider. Sperm Whale Rider. There you go. Why aren't we just like green lighting these movies? Some studio needs to get us. We've got the Bosom Buddies feature film. We've got Sperm Whale Rider. The list is endless, but that's all that's coming out on home entertainment this week, and I don't mean by all, because that's a whole ton of releases, except there's some stuff that's probably coming out on DVD, but we need not talk about that. Look, if you can't be bothered releasing a Blu-ray, I can't be bothered talking about it, unless it's something that we're directly involved in. And
unless it's Sniper.
Absolutely screw the shit out of it. Of course, because that kind of...
I was going to say, like I've mentioned it, I think I've mentioned it every week since we've been back.
Is it the Burt Reynolds box
Yeah,
set?
people have been getting them. They've been arriving.
Yes.
So
I've
it's kind of coming out this week.
I've seen it popping up. I think you're right. There is a bit of a holdback with JB. It might be the next week or the week
Yes.
after. I know it's early to mid-April that it's definitely happening, but I have seen them turning up in people's feeds, and it looks fantastic. I can't wait to get a copy.
I've been
hanging.
I've been really enjoying all the comments of people going, "Hey, where's the book? It says it's got a book. Where's the book?" And mine definitely doesn't have a book. Umbrella and dressing the black of book. What's going on with the book? And then under every one of them, after 10 minutes later, I found it. It's in one of the cases.
Oh, is that what I did see people saying that? Because people were messaging people. Yeah, I saw that.
It's in the best little whorehouse.
But like, who doesn't explore it before you go posting?
Yeah.
Oh, it's totally it. I remember when I worked in retail that we'd have customers come back that had left something sealed, convinced that it didn't have the second disc. Like, it doesn't say anything about the 2 discs. It's supposed to be 2 discs. And then you're like, yeah, it's in there. It just doesn't say 2 discs. And then you're like, did you want to open it now? And then open it, and it's like the best gratification you can get is like someone opening for, oh yeah, so it is. Okay, then I'll take that.
But then they say, but I wanted a sealed copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, tough titties.
Well, yeah, that's it, gentlemen.
Cool.
So I'll be back next week to tell you what's coming out, and I might actually have some more news because I believe that the Superman 4Ks, Superman 2 through 4, may have been pushed back into May. I haven't seen a formal announcement about it locally, but overseas the box set's been pushed by a month, so I'm kind of thinking there might be the same case here.
Well, we'll wait and see. But, mate, until next week, thank you, mate.
Absolute pleasure. See you, gentlemen.
Bye.
Well, hey Ben, now that we've gotten Jared out of the room, we can have some fun again. It's time to do that. Drag out that digital spinny wheel thing that we do, and blow the dust off that, and have some fun with a random conversation that the wheel decides upon. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's click that button. She's a spinning.
We should have Sugar Babes music to push the button song while it spins.
Woo! Okay, there we go. Quality redneck movies.
Redneck movies. Do you watch
Hang on. Quality redneck movies.
do you watch did you watch what was that name of that the TV series with Jason Bateman?
Oh, the Ozarks?
The Ozarks. Did you watch the Ozarks?
I watched some of it. My wife plowed through it.
But there are a couple of characters there, and apparently there is a difference between a redneck and a hillbilly.
Oh yeah, there is.
And even after watching that show and they explain it, I still don't really know what it is.
Well, you know, in your mind, like let's make it the Aussie version. So you know what a hillbilly is, right? Like the bucktooth fucking inbred type, and
deliverance type.
Yeah, and then you've got the bogan. Like there's that's the difference in Australia. It's the same kind of difference over there.
So we wouldn't then discuss Hills Have Eyes because that's a.
Let's just not split hairs. Let's just fucking whatever. Yeah. So like I mean, obviously Ozarks is an interesting one. But Deliverance obviously comes to mind. That's the go-to for most people when they think of redneck movies. I'd even say Roadhouse.
Roadhouse, I think, is the ultimate redneck movie. That's the ultimate everything.
Yeah.
Why talk about anything else now that we can just talk about Roadhouse?
Are you excited about the remake of Roadhouse?
I am.
Yeah, me too.
Look, it's something that it should terrify me, but I'm quietly hopeful that it's going to be awesome.
Well, what I'm gathering from what I've seen of it, it's by name only, and it's its own story. So they've shown us the footage of Jake Gyllenhaal doing the MMA, and
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so he went into a real MMA ring at a real tournament, and they filmed like this climax fight or whatever, and everyone in the stadium thought it was a real fight, and it was played out like a real fight, and he was incredible. And it was only after the fact that was revealed to the audience that no, you actually just watched the movie being made. Similar to what Jimmy Fallon did in that Pitch Perfect with Drew Barrymore, where they went out onto the baseball field
Oh, yeah, right.
and didn't
Yeah.
tell anyone. Anyway, so the fact that he's an MMA fighter, that in and of itself, like Patrick Swayze was never a fighter of any kind.
Well, he was the best cooler in the business. Well, not according to him. Dalton, is he Dalton?
Yeah.
The Sam Elliott character was the best cooler in the business, but
Yeah.
you know by the order of the cast in the credits that really it's it was a thing of that was best cooler in the
I
business.
just hope Jake Gyllenhaal has genes like that.
I just hope that Kelly Lynch gets her tits out again.
What
So
2023, Kelly?
Kelly McGillis, just so that the Murray brothers can keep calling up her husband whenever they see the film to tell him about it.
All right,
Which is always the joke. Always the joke about the first one.
No,
but the other quality redneck movie, I think is a redneck movie.
Yep.
That may be worth talking about is Blue Ruin, which I think is a tragically underseen masterpiece.
I haven't seen it.
You've never seen it?
It's tragically underseen.
Green Room. It's that Jeremy Saulnier.
Oh no, maybe I have seen this. Maybe I have seen this. The title didn't do it. Yeah.
It's a tale of revenge. And it's that I can't remember the name of the lead actor in it, but he's the kind of one of the flunkies in Green Room. He's not the lead, but he's one of the flunkies in it.
I reckon I might have seen it. I'm
one of the red laces.
It's just not sticking. Okay, cool.
Well, he gets his red lace, but Blue Ruin, Jesus. So it's a powerful film. It is so good.
The other one that came to my mind while you were talking then, so like if I wasn't paying that much attention, it's because I was thinking of other titles. Smokey and the Bandit has to be up there.
Yeah.
Classic. But hey, what about Joe Dirt?
Yeah, what a classic.
Classic.
Yeah. And Joe Dirt too.
Joe Dirt too.
Not my sister. Not my sister. Not my sister. You're not my sister. So good.
Would you class Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a redneck movie? I think it is.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I would. I mean, I would also include Southern Comfort.
Yeah, totally.
Deliverance and
Gummo.
Yeah, all of those like Martha Girl, kind of. I guess they're just
Yeah.
But then you got movies like Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which I guess is Savannah, but it feels like it's a kind of a.
It does. It's the accents. I mean, we've got the Bonehead Weekly segment on our show.
Like the Southern. Really, it's very biased against people from the South of America.
So
just because of the accents, and you kind of think, yeah. But the one that I was thinking of, the one that immediately popped into my head when it landed on the thing, and then I forgot about it after we were talking about Hills Have Eyes, is Fire Down Below, the Steven Seagal movie, where he's the EPA undercover EPA agent in Appalachia.
That's right.
The Appalachians, and he's like, there's the great one of the great flunky villains is like, yeah, for some reason don't talk to mud, you've been hard of hearing. So much great dialogue, and Harry Dean Stanton is in it, and Mark Helgenberger, and it's a young what's his name? Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
He plays Mark Helgenberger's brother, and he's he hasn't gone grey yet, so he's almost unrecognizable. And Chris Christopherson, I think, is the main bad guy.
And didn't Steven Seagal direct that?
That's very possible.
Oh, to the Google machine. I think he might have. Anyway, it's funny when you were doing that voice a minute ago, you almost sounded like that guy that played Juice Bigelow's dad when he was in Joe Dirt, and he's saying like, "Homer's where you make it."
Yeah.
And Joe Dirt's like, "I get it, dude. You want to see Homer's naked?" He's like, "Homer's where you make it."
No, that was my Sling Blade voice.
Ain't got no gas in it.
But it was to be fair, it was more the Sling Blade Swingers parody, where he's I'd like to take you bar dancing, and there's a great bit where he's in Swingers, John Favreau is that's montage sequence where he's leaving I think Brooke Langdon a message on the answering machine, and then they do the parody of the Sling Blade one, and he's just like, I'd like to get you some potted meat, and then And there's one where he's just beep. And he doesn't even get a word out. So good. Go look that up on YouTube if you haven't seen it.
I feel so sorry for our listeners who don't get to see you while you do that.
Me do that. Just doing my impression of Swing Blade. That's what it was called.
Run past the rivers, run past all the light. Feel it crashing and burning till it all collides. Strike a match, lit the fire, shining up the sky. As it all comes down again, as it all comes down again, as it all comes down again to the sound. The sound of the wind is whispering in your head. Can you feel it coming back? To the one for the goal, keep running till we're there. We're coming home now, we're coming home now. The sound of the wind is whispering in your head. Can you feel it coming back? To the one for the goal, keep running till we're there. We're coming home now, we're coming home now. Hear the voices surround us, hear them screaming out. We'll be crying for mercy, we'll be crying out loud. Burn the bridges in our town till the point where we drown. As it all comes down again, as it all comes down again, as it all comes down again to the sound. The sound of the wind is whispering in your head. Can you feel it coming back? To the one for the goal, keep running till we're there. We're coming home now, we're coming home now. The sound of the wind is whispering in your head. Can you feel it coming back? To the one for the goal, keep running till we're there. We're coming home now, we're coming home now.
So anybody that has paid attention to the show over the last, I guess, few years might recall I've been talking quite a bit about a movie called Around the Block. It's an Aussie movie with Christina Ricci. One of those I guess, Stand and Deliver, Dangerous Minds type of movies.
Every time you talk about it, I think of I think it's the main theme song from DC Cab. Maybe it's just with one of the songs, which is called "It's Around the Block."
Yeah.
And I used to have it on cassette tape, and I listened to it in my car every day.
Well, this movie was all set in the suburb of Redfern in Sydney, but the director was Sarah Spillane, and she's got a brand new movie coming out called True Spirit. In fact, it's already out. And it's doing big things on Netflix. And the song we just played is called Home by Doten, which is from the soundtrack to this movie. So the movie itself is the true story of Jessica Watson, the 16 or 17-year-old
It's based on the true story.
Based on the true story of Jessica Watson, the 16 or 17-year-old who circumnavigated around the globe in a yacht. And I'm sure if you're an Aussie, you would remember when this happened, made headlines all around the world. And anyway, so we recently reached out to Sarah for a conversation, and she happily obliged. So here it is, and it's a fun little chat, and she's an awesome chick. So enjoy, and we'll catch you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Jess. Welcome to my video log. Traditionally, sailors keep log books, but you can't deprive me of screen time for half a year. I'm planning on being the youngest person to sail around the world non-stop and unassisted.
You're the captain, got it?
You should be okay.
That boat is a shockingly tiny thing to send a child to sea in.
They are waiting for her to fail. She cannot come lumping back in.
Red sky at night, sailors still light. Red sky in the morning, sailors warning.
Well, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Good Movie Monday, Sarah. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, I mean, we appreciate it because you are so very busy these days by the looks of it. And you do a lot of things. I want to just sort of give people a little bit of an idea of who you are. You've made 2 features now. You've done a graphic novel, I believe a comic book series, and just to scratch the surface, I should say. What lit the bug? You know, where did you get this sort of love for cinema, and how young was it when you knew you wanted to do it?
I was very young, actually. Probably one of these kind of crazy kids that knew at such a young age what I wanted to do. That I was probably a bit of an outcast for it because I was 6 years old. So I remember watching E.T. when I was 6, and my dad is actually a philosophy professor, and he had told me to choose what I love best in the world and then make that my job, so then I'll never have to work a day in my life. And I did exactly that at 6 years old. I saw E.T. and I remember being so moved as a 6-year-old, and just really blown away by the magic and the emotion. And I got the bug at 6, and then I ended up starting acting classes when I was probably 11 or 12, because it was the only way that I could get access to a set to really understand what a director did and how the filmmaking process kind of operated. So I became an actor. I managed to land a role on an Aussie TV show for a couple of years, and that's why I really learned, the operations of a set and the filmmaking process.
It's amazing how E.T. is such a common denominator amongst a lot of people. Like, it's the first film I saw at the cinemas. I've interviewed people who have said that's the movie that got them interested. So
I am curious though, if you saw E.T. when you were 6, how old were you when you got to have your first Reese's piece? Because I was like, it took me like I didn't get to have one until I was like 25. It was worth the wait, but it was a long.
Yeah. I think I would have been, our family went on a holiday, our first kind of, family trip to America. And I think I might have hit some up there, but so that was probably 11 or something. But I'm with you. It's interesting because as such a young kid, I think, especially as being a young girl, I think a lot of young girls my age probably really related to Drew Barrymore. But for some reason, I knew that I wanted to, make people feel the way that I felt, by telling the stories behind the scenes, as opposed to, I'm sure the movie has also inspired a few actors as well. But yeah, it really is an interesting kind of turning point for a lot of people, I think.
And now let's just come all the way to now, which is the reason we're talking to you. Your new film is True Spirit. It's all over Netflix. How did this project find you? Did you find it, or did someone bring it to you?
I was actually approached by Jessica's management. In fact, one of our producers, whose name is Andrew Fraser, is also Jessica's manager. And they saw my last Australian film, Around the Block, that had premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. And I think they sort of got word that they should come and check out Around the Block when we had our Australian premiere. And so however that happened, they ended up at the Aussie premiere, Andrew and his business partner Shahen, who's an executive producer on True Spirit. And they seemed to like it. And it was, of course, Around the Block was a much smaller budget. It didn't have the same visual effects requirements as True Spirit. But we met up after they introduced themselves. We met up. And they told me about the project. And at the time, there had been, I think, an adaptation done of Jessica's book, which became a kind of blueprint. It really sort of tracked the chronology of her journey. But they were looking for a filmmaker, a director to come on and introduce some more sort of story layers and I guess figure out how to tell this story so it's not one girl on a boat for 210 days. And so that was my challenge. It was definitely not a slam dunk for me because if someone presents you with that story, it is not necessarily come across as being the most cinematic story when you're talking about one person on the ocean by themselves for such a long period of time. But the more time I then spent with Jessica and got to know her as a person and then was able to reflect on her story, her journey, and also why and how it affected so many people around the world. I think that's when I really understood how deeply spiritual and philosophical this story was, and therefore, why it deserves to be told.
I mean, yeah, and when it comes to telling the story, and it's beloved by many, as you said, around the world, do you feel a personal obligation to tell it accurately? Like, how difficult is it to decide what aspects need to be abandoned or sort of changed for cinematic purpose?
I think what was important to me is that I captured the key points to her journey. And so I stayed as true as I possibly could in terms of Jessica's circumnavigation of the globe. Where I was able to take a little bit of cinematic license is how to propel that story forward. And so, I created a character that is an amalgamation of several characters who supported her on her journey. And that's the mentor character, who's played by the incredible Cliff Curtis, the New Zealand actor. And he, so like I say, he becomes her mentor in the story. And there were several people who supported Jess and were somewhat mentors to Jess. And to be honest, he's also highly influenced, that character, by my own mentor, who's Jack Thompson, Australian actor. And so, I was able to take some cinematic license there to build that relationship that I was able to cut back and forth in between flashbacks. That, again, it helped propel the story forward by giving us as the audience an insight into how she got there in the first place. And then to a certain degree, the same with the family. I met all of Jessica's family. I think all of them, certainly mum and dad and one or two of the siblings. And so, and again, I was sort of, instead of portraying exactly who every character is today, I was able to really find the essence of what they went through during Jessica's journey and create their own individual arcs and storylines. And so, I guess what I'm saying is there's a little bit of cinematic license, but I certainly wanted to stay true to the key points in terms of the pivotal moments in the circumnavigation.
And were they like, happy with those licenses that you did have to take? I'm assuming they understood the reason for it.
Yeah, I have to say, Jessica was just such a joy to work with. She really was. I mean, she's so incredibly humble. She's so just an incredible human being. I think what she accomplished at such a young age is extraordinary. But the way she has taken that in her stride and continued to push herself year after year, whether it's overcoming dyslexia. I don't think anyone actually overcomes dyslexia, but not allowing it to inhibit her other interests, such as writing. She's published 2 books since then. And so working with Jessica was fantastic. She certainly understood. It's almost like she had such a respect for what I do that of course she wanted to have a little bit of input in terms of making sure that I got certain sailing aspects right. But in terms of the drama of the story, she really put a trust in me and the team and allowed us to run with it. And same with the family. To be honest, I didn't have as much contact with them, but I think Jessica was a great middle person there as well, just saying it's okay. I trust that you should.
I think the really impressive thing about the film, I mean, just really blew me away. That's why I contacted you, because I watched it and I'm like, I want to talk to this filmmaker. So much of it, is set on the open water, and to pull the curtain back a bit for the average viewer, most of it was shot in water tanks with hydraulics and all that kind of stuff. How technically prepared were you going into the film? Like, did you have your head around all of the technical aspects before making it and how you would do it?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of pre-production on this film for a couple of reasons. One, because we had a couple of false starts in terms of getting this set up and financed. But also, it is an ambitious project. It's not a cheap movie to make. And so once we had partnered up with Netflix, I had to continuously reassure them that I knew what I was doing. And so, I started off with, very dodgy storyboards, like sketching them myself, working with, a good friend of mine who can kind of draw. And then, those storyboards, I then work with an actual storyboard artist and make, take them up to the next level. I then worked with a fantastic, in fact, a guy who was a production assistant for us. His name is Elliot, and he had a great understanding of Premiere and different sort of editing software. So we animated the storyboards, and then it went for some of the more complicated sequences, a previous company to actually do a complete animation. So that, that process I certainly haven't done on other projects. I've directed a lot of commercials as well as documentaries and the feature that you mentioned. And so I've never had to go to that extent. But it makes sense. There was also a lot of different setups in order for us to be able to accomplish these shots. You mentioned the water tank, but we also had a dry gimbal, which was this enormous replica of the boat that was on this huge gimbal in the car park at Village Roadshow Studios. So, no water at all. Because if you're trying to replicate the choppy oceans, a water tank doesn't really help you, because, you can get a certain amount of wave, rocking in there through the wave machines, but you're never going to get, the kind of 10-foot plus waves that we encountered several times in our story. And so you may as well just shoot dry, because you're going to have to replace the entire ocean wave. So, but that was, that set was amazing, because it was like a gigantic ride in a fun park or something. It was actually hydraulics, and
there's some really great videos online. I think you've put some on your social media. There's some great image, behind the scenes stuff of that in process. And it's just incredible, particularly when you get that wave tank splashing water over the top of it. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, the dump tanks, they were awesome. I really enjoyed working with the special effects guys on the Gold Coast, Brian Cox and his team, because I think there's certain preconceived ideas of female action directors, and so they would sort of present, okay, this is how we're going to do it, and I'd just be like, more dump tanks, like more, like let's just keep going, like drench her, and they were like, okay, we're with you, like.
Awesome. And the film is like, it's kind of exploded. It's done really well performance wise. I've noticed people going nuts for it online. Has there been a different reaction around the world, like to Aussie audiences compared with UK or American audiences?
I think one of the biggest surprises for all of us involved is how well it's doing internationally. It's we always hoped that it would resonate in Australia. Obviously, being an Australian story, and Jessica being such an iconic figure within Australia. But I certainly didn't expect the response that we're getting around the world. It was number 2 in the world a week after it was released, and it's stayed in the top 10 since. So yeah, that to me has been a very pleasant surprise. And I get hit up on social media by people really touching messages all around the world from people sharing their story or thanking me for capturing what it's like to have no wind, metaphorically speaking, of course. Like people experiencing, I think timing wise, coming out of COVID, I think a lot of people really connected with some of those themes of isolation and what do you do when the wind's taken out of your sails, so to speak. And so yeah, it's been really lovely and a very, very pleasant surprise.
Has it what has it meant for you professionally? Like, are you suddenly getting emails from people in the industry that you never thought you would? Has it opened doors for you?
Yeah. It's Hollywood's so weird. It's like I'm getting hit up and offered to do a lot of people's true stories. Like that's that's a kind of given, and a lot of water movies. But yes, there are some people who I deeply admire in this industry. Philip Noyce is one of them. He's a director that I have always respected and looked up to so much. He's a bit of a personal hero of mine.
My favorite filmmaking book of all time is Philip Noyce's book, I think, From Backroads to Hollywood. That's an incredible book.
I totally agree. Years and years ago, I was at I think it was like, maybe it was a book launch or something. It was the old Glebe Theatre, and I was sitting in the audience, and I don't know how old I was, but I was young, very, very young. And yeah, his honesty about Hollywood is really eye-opening, and it was very scary. It was very frightening at the time, but I think if you have this passion and you love it so much, it's pretty hard to be turned off for good.
Absolutely. If I can, before we let you go, if I can digress and sort of backtrack a little bit to Around the Block, you mentioned that earlier on. I'm a big fan of that film. Ben can attest. I talk about it on our show quite a bit. How on earth did you wrangle such a high-profile actress as Christina Ricci for such an intrinsically Aussie kind of story?
We did it the kind of conventional way, which is reached out to. She was always at the top of my list. I think she's such an interesting actress, and she makes very brave choices in terms of the roles that she plays. As a director, I think especially with indie films where you have a lot of say, in the casting. You do in studio films as well, but you have a lot of people that you also have to consult with. Whereas indie films, which Around the Block certainly was one, it really comes down to the director. And so Christina was at the top of my list, and we got the script. I was working with a casting director here, Rich Memento, and we got the script to her agents. They responded positively, so they passed it on to Christina, and then they set up a meeting with the two of us. This is obviously long before COVID, when everyone used to meet in person. And so we sat down and had a conversation, and we have a lot in common ideologically in terms of our views on the world. And so I think she really understood the themes of it. We talked a lot about her character, and respect for Christina and actors like her is that she's also not she wasn't afraid to play next to, maybe even second to, an unknown Indigenous actor. And I just have so much praise and respect for actors like that are that are a meaningful name in the industry, because it's just it doesn't happen all the time. And if you have a script like that, it can be very hard to cast because people don't want to play second to an unknown actor. So yeah, I had a great experience with Christina, and I we're still in contact today, and she's
amazing. Well, I hope that people that have watched and enjoyed True Spirit go back and check out Around the Block, because even though you won awards for it, I just kind of feel like it's a bit of an undiscovered gem for a lot of people still. So yeah, I wanted to give that a bit of mention on this chat, but we're not going to keep you much longer. I promise that if we do chat again, I'll let Ben get some questions in.
I just figured I was here for my good looks.
Yep, you were, mate. Yeah, you always deliver.
I got to talk about Reese's Pieces. I can't complain.
Well, that's right. I bring you here for the food chat. We know it. Yeah. Stay tuned for the next mukbang video with Ben. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I do love the film, and as once again, as Ben will attest, I've been talking about it. Wanted to get you on just to have a bit of a chat, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, guys. Really great to be here, and great to chat to you both too.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, and we're revisiting an old topic. And by old topic, we mean James, because he's old. Athlete films. Now, James, are we doing athlete's foot films? What are we doing here? Because we've talked about sports in the movie picture several times.
Well, I thought it was about time.
That's where you lost me.
Well, I know you're not into that. I know you think it's a pagan ritual, but I thought we probably need to talk about films that are athlete films, but maybe not a major athletic event. For instance, I was thinking, a film nobody talks about anymore. And I mean nobody. Matter of fact, most people don't remember it exists. That would be the classic Disney film, The World's Greatest Athlete. About the world's greatest athlete, starring Tim Conaway and Jan Michael Vincent. The movie is about Nanu
Michael
Vincent. How many Jan Michael Vincents do we need? However many it takes. Anyway, it's about a quote-unquote boy wonder in the world of athletes named Nanu. The coach is a failing coach. He's never been successful. He happens to be on an African safari, which is evidently what failing coaches do, at least according to this film, and discovers in Africa the world's greatest athlete, which Jan Michael Vincent. He discovers him on safari, brings him back, and it might just be that he'll eventually have a winning streak and not continue to be a losing coach. And that's the plot to the film. Not many people talk about that film. To be honest, I haven't seen it on television in a long time. There you go. It's a non-traditional athletics film, The World's Greatest Athlete by Walt Disney.
Oh, man, the movie I'm going to talk about, I will freely admit, is terrible. There are so many I could do. Like, I don't want to revisit one we did on a previous episode. Check out our podcast. So I'm going to talk about this one again, The Sixth Man. Kadeem Hardison and Marlon Wayans, directed by Randall Miller. So it is about...
Oh, no, I got it confused. What's the other one with the other guy? I was thinking of Joanna Man. I've interviewed the star of Joanna Man.
No, we're not talking about Joanna Man. That is a classic compared to The Sixth Man. So The Sixth Man, it's about two brothers who play on an NCAA team. One of the brothers passes away. By the way, I want to talk about this where he actually dies. In a weird film, it is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in movie history. I'm dead serious. It is a heartbreaking scene. I have cried watching this scene because they did really good. But the whole other part of the movie's bad. And it's about him as a ghost coming back to help his brother and his team win basketball games as a ghost. Also, where this movie made the mistake of is they actually put, same thing as Space Jam, you don't put real athletes in movies unless they're vetted. They put NCAA basketball player Travis Ford as an actor in this movie. He really should have just stuck to his basketball career. They do not do a good job, people. The Sixth Man. Joe.
Well, I'm going to actually talk about a movie that I love because I think there's two. Kurt Russell is one of the best actors of all time, actually. Kurt Russell was one of those people that
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Joe. Kurt Russell's not actually in Celtic Pride, right?
Oh, that was my second pick.
So he's one of the best actors of all time. And he's also a movie star. To be quite honest, I don't know shit about hockey, but him in Miracles is probably one of his top 3 performances. He plays an actual real life guy named Herb Brooks, who was a player turned coach who, because no one wanted a job, ended up with a job, and he led the 1980 U.S. Olympic team to victory over the invincible Soviet Union. And at the time in 1980, we wanted to beat the Soviets in everything, right? Specifically in Rocky 3 or 4, James. You're the Rocky person. It's Rocky 4, by the way. I think Kurt Russell's 2 best performances, it's tough, but is that and then the terrible movie Soldier. What do you guys think? Miracle and Soldier.
Yeah.
I mean, those are up there. Don't get me wrong. There's a slew of them. There is a slew. And the really fun ones usually take place in John Carpenter films. However, as far as being somebody completely different from his own self, I think those two. And I like Miracle. And it's a fun movie. And it's a great performance for Kurt Russell that wraps it all together and that horrible, horrible hair that he has in it.
Thank God he didn't mention Captain Ron.
I like Captain Ron. This is
you hate Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah.
Don't
You
make
heard
no
it here,
sense.
folks. You heard it here, folks. This has been Bonehead Weekly Funsies. Oh no, I said it.
The Bonehead Weekly podcast, people. It is essentially that. Boneheads. But the Bonehead Weekly podcast is what you just heard in long form, and you should check that out. If you get a kick of those guys, find them wherever you get podcasts from, and watch them on YouTube. They've got faces, and you can look at them. But Ben, we're at that point of the show where we recommend a movie each. So people, get ready to take some mental notes. I'm going to go first. And this is a movie I think you love, and at least you should. Let's go for it. It's a movie that flew under most people's radars at the time. It came along in the early days of Nickelodeon movies. It's from the year 2000.
Is it Holes?
It's Ready to Rumble.
Oh, well, I did enjoy this movie, but it's been so long since I've seen it.
Yes.
That I don't remember much about
Now,
it.
the thing is, I chose this movie having not seen it since, I reckon, at least 2005.
Like, it was new release the last time I watched it.
Yeah, right. Well, I used to watch it quite a lot back in VHS days and hadn't watched it since. And so I was going to come to this conversation having not seen it in that long. But the other night, I'm like, I can't do that. I need to watch it. Like, it was on my mind so much. And so I found it's on, it's on YouTube. It's on Apple. I just paid $4 to watch it. Oh, so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I just love this movie, and it is a worthy recommendation. It is about two dudes. This is David Arquette and Scott Caan, by the way, and Oliver Platt is in there for good measure. But Arquette and Caan play two dudes, two buddies that go on a quest, if you will, to help redeem the career of their favorite wrestler, who was the champion wrestler of the world until he got fucked over by a manager and lost his title. And these two,
tale as old as time.
These two loved him so much that they took it upon themselves to help redeem this guy's career. But the movie itself plays out much more like a Harold and Kumar style of bro movie. So it is them on the road, them doing dim-witted things. Also, what comes to mind is like, dude, where's my car? That kind of thing. But it's just so loaded with comedy. And if you love wrestling, you're going to get heaps out of it. If you don't like wrestling, it doesn't matter because it's just a good road trip movie. It's got some great cameos. By the way, the manager that fucks Oliver Platt over is played by Joey Pants. And there's a scene where he's got cornrows, and that's hilarious to me.
Straight out of Peter Berg in The Great White Hype.
Totally. Oh, The Great White Hype. That's the one that I was trying to think of. What's that other movie that was wrestling at the time? Was that Samuel L. Jackson?
Samuel L. Jackson
Yes.
and Peter Berg before he became a big budget special effects movie director.
That's right. Martin Landau has a bit in this as well. Diamond Dallas Page is the wrestler that knocks the crown off. But this is also notable for being John Cena's first appearance in a film, albeit not much of an appearance. He's like in the background of a locker room, but he's in it. And,
is he huge?
Look,
huge.
Yeah, he was the kind of John Cena we know from the wrestling days, pretty much.
Right.
And this one was actually directed by Brian Robbins, and the reason that's important is because he's now the CEO of Nickelodeon Films. So he's the guy that made Varsity Blues, Good Burger, Hardball with Keanu Reeves. Keanu's coming up all the time at the moment.
Hardball. That's the one with Diane Lane, isn't it? The baseball movie.
Yeah. Is Diane Lane
not as good as?
I don't think Diane is she in it? I thought she was in the one with Kevin Costner for Love of the Game.
No, that's Kelly Preston.
Oh, it is too. You're probably right. You can look that up while I talk. So Brian Robbins made all those sort of movies, and he went on just to become the CEO of Nickelodeon, which is great. Like, I love these Nickelodeon movies. They've got a real flavor. They've got a stamp on them. And Ready to Rumble is the one that everyone forgot. So look it up, people. Like I said, it's on YouTube and I think Apple. A couple of bucks.
You ever want to just throw your phone through a window?
You're looking it up, are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It was a good movie though.
I remember not. It is Dying Light. I remember not liking it. I really wanted it to be
The Replacements.
The Replacements, and it was a bit more serious than that.
How the hell did I know that's where you were going?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I do want to know, where does it stand? Where does Ready to Rumble stand in the canon of great wrestling movies like Bad Boys, Bad Guys? Sorry, Grunt, Body Slam.
What was the doco Across the Mat or whatever it is? The one with Matt Foley?
Yeah. Beyond the Mat.
Beyond the Mat. Well, here's
the one about Faith.
Oh yeah, the Fighting My Family. Fighting with my family. Yeah. That's a good one. I think this and that are the pinnacles for
the
me.
best two. I really like Bad Guys for me. That was Adam Baldwin in his prime.
But I think the other thing I didn't mention, and just you reminded me for some reason, is that David Arquette entered the pro wrestling scene when this movie came out. It began almost like promo for this movie, and then he became an actual pro wrestler. And there's a documentary all about that as well. But I didn't realize it was Ready to Rumble that actually it was the promo that led to that.
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Learning stuff every week here.
Every episode.
What about you? What recommendation do you have?
I'm going to recommend Devil in a Blue Dress.
Oh, Denzel.
With Denzel Washington, directed by Carl Franklin. It's based on a bunch of the Easy Rawlins books by Walter Mosley. I first saw this movie I saw it theatrical. Well, when I say I saw it, it was playing theatrically and I saw it as part of a 4-movie marathon that they used to do at Hoyt's when I was in high school.
Yeah, I love those.
Unfortunately, even then, even at the young age of like a 16 or whatever, I didn't have the stamina to stay up all night in a cinema either. So I would always fall asleep through the third movie. And Devil in a Blue Dress was the third film. There are other great films. I think Ballistic X vs. Sever was a third film in one of those marathons. Cutthroat Island was definitely a third movie in one of those marathons. Some great films in that line. But I then, funnily enough, I ended up buying a book on CD from an op shop that was it's a later book. This is, I think, the very first book in the Walter Mosley Easy Rawlins series. This one's based on the first book and set in like 1948. The one I listened to was much later, but it was so good that I was like, man, I've got to go back and watch that Devil in a Blue Dress and just see what I missed. And boy, am I glad I did, because this movie is excellent.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of it is a post World War II noir film set in Hollywood. All about it. He was Denzel Washington plays Easy Rawlins. He's a veteran who served with distinction in World War II.
Yep.
And now he works at an aeronautical company, like doing engineer. He's an engineer there or something like that. And but he gets into it with his boss and gets fired, and he's desperate to earn money. He's got a mortgage, and he's starting to come good. So then this guy at a bar that he hangs out at introduces him to Tom Sizemore.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Sizemore, who recently passed away, I think, as everyone knows, recently got unplugged. Technically, he was probably dead a long time before then.
So for years,
mentally, he wants him to find this woman, Daphne Monet, and he thinks it's fine, and when he finds her, and then all this stuff happens, and he kind of ends up being accused of things, and of course, it's not a great time to be a black man in America in the late 40s, and it's just this it's a really great film. Jennifer Beals is in it. Don Cheadle is probably the only person who I actually read the book before I saw the movie, and he is not who I'd pictured the character of Mouse. it did not compute. Even watching him doing the stuff, and he's great in it, but it's just not not the kind of person I pictured for that part. But
Yep.
still great. Maury Chaykin pops up. It's and there's a couple of people who I recognize from like ER and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you did movies too.
Two things that come to mind is, firstly, when I think of this movie, I think maybe it's because of the theatrical or VHS poster. I always think of it as like an African American Chinatown.
Yeah,
like it kind of has that vibe going about it.
It's very LA Confidential.
Yes, we were talking, which I also think is a bit of a Chinatown kind of thing, but.
Yeah.
We were talking to Jarrett before about how Keanu Reeves, go back 30 years and he was doing all these big things and he's still doing big things. Same with Denzel Washington. I remember like 30 years ago watching him in, what's the David Attenborough one? I've forgotten it. The apartheid movie that he did, Cry Freedom.
Cry Freedom.
Then
I was going to say,
Glory.
remember when he was playing second fiddle to Matthew Broderick
Glory?
in Glory?
Yeah, I do.
How times have changed.
I know, and yet these are still on the top of their game, making headline movies. Incredible.
Yeah.
It wasn't that way. You go back 30 years ago, the actors that we loved back then hadn't been going for that long. Like like something about this generation.
Well, I mean, but I remember Denzel Washington from Heartburn.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it Heartburn? Yeah, with Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, yeah.
And I watched it because it was a Bob Hoskins movie.
Was that Jack Nicholson?
No. I think there is a movie called Heartburn. It's not. It's the one where Bob Hoskins. Denzel Washington has a heart attack,
and it had a great movie poster.
Yeah, he gets killed, and his heart goes into Bob Hoskins, and then he helps him solve crimes.
Yep, it's like one of those. What do they call it? Magic realism or something like that. I think that's what that genre is called.
Yeah,
it's a bit like a vice versa.
I know it's Heart something or another.
Yeah, Heart Donor, was it? Anyway, here we go. Back to the Google machine.
Google machine. Heart Condition.
Heart Condition. I remember the VHS
at
of the video
point,
store.
It was called Black Ghost in, I think, Spain.
Oh, God. Anyway, we've pretty much reached the end of the show, Ben.
I love that Black Ghost is what ended it.
We better move on. It's been a fun one. I want to thank Sarah Spillane for taking time out to chat with us about her film. Make sure you check it out on Netflix, True Spirit. It goes without saying, thank you to Jarrett, Joe, Chad, James. Can't imagine doing this show without them. I could imagine doing it without them, but I don't want to. Now is the part where you find us on socials. So make sure that you have liked, followed, and subscribed to everything we do, all of the applicable platforms. And there are tabs and links to all of those on our website, goodmoviemonday.com. I'll be back on Wednesday night with Chloe for another episode of Wednesday Up Late. So please do the same and like all of those shows and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. We have a group called Wednesday Up Late that you can join. Ben,
group.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Hope you've had as much fun as I have.
I certainly have. And it's great to be on the show. I think next week I'll be in New Zealand. So that's going to be an interesting show.
You'll be coming at us from across the pond, and you'll be a couple of hours ahead. So got to watch that delay on the Zoom.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be coming to you from the future.
I know. I mean, what, 2 hours between asking a question and getting an answer? So I'm going to have to do something with the edit.
I'll be able to tell you what the winning Tats Lotto numbers are.
Fantastic. All right. Here's a song.
You agree to spit it with me.
Here's a song from True Spirit. Another one. It's called "I Made It" by Tones and I. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
When I was young, I tried to build a paper plane, but my head told me no. My parents sat me down and they tried to explain that I had some time to grow. But I stayed up all night until I got it right, and in the morning I screamed, hey, look, I made it. When I was young, I tried to build a paper plane, but my head told me no. But I knew I was special, and when I didn't believe, I'd remember the moments when my family's waiting for me. And if I had a dollar from the ones that didn't believe, I could sail away and live my life at sea. 'Cause I made Sometimes I think about why we do what we do, and the world tells us no. These walls were made to break, and I am breaking through. At times it's hard to show. And even though I'm scared, I know that I'm aware that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. So when I think about why I do what I do, it's everything to me. And I knew I was special. And when I didn't believe, I remember the moment when my family's waiting for me. And if I had a dollar from the ones that didn't believe, I could sail away and live my life at sea. Oh, 'cause I made it. Yeah, damn, I made it. Oh, I made it. 'Cause I made it. Yeah, 'cause I made it. Yeah, damn, I made it. Oh, I made it. 'Cause I made it. We made it. We made it. We made it. We made it. Ah, we made it. Ah, we made it. Ah. We made it. We made it. We made it. We made it. Ah, we made it. Ah, we made it. Ah. 'Cause we made it. Yeah, damn, we made it. Oh, we made it. 'Cause we made it. Yeah, 'cause we made it. Yeah, damn, we made it. Oh, we made it. 'Cause we made it.